Hey everyone, hope you are doing awesome. Welcome back to my channel PEGAhut with another video. Thanks everyone for subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't hit the bell icon yet, please do so you won't miss any of my videos. Please hit the like button and leave me a comment or feedback if you like the video or the way I have explained. So today we are going to learn the part 3 of our REST API series. I would strongly recommend to watch my part 1 and part 2 video of my REST API series before you start watching this video. I would provide the link in the description box so that it will be easy for you to go and watch the series. That's the base which will make you guys stronger in API. After carefully thinking of how best I can make you guys an expert in API and Pega integration, I have enhanced my series to cover different flavors of the API hands-on. So here I have planned is as you guys know that Pega and API integration. In my last video I have explained that we have got two rules. One is connect rest and other one is connect service. So in the connect rest, here Pega is a consumer, right, where we are going to consume the external APIs. So that's where connect rest will come into picture. So the name itself indicates connect rest. So you are connecting the REST API from Pega, right? Now in the connect rest, what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to give you a hands-on video for how to connect to a GET API, and also I'm going to give you a hands-on video on how to connect a POST API. These are the two major flavors that you would see in the industry, and they are little different the way the request object, because as you know GET doesn't have a request object and POST has a request object. That's the whole reason why I have divided this, so that you will get all the flavors. Now on the other hand, you got connect service, wherein Pega is a provider here. Now Pega is exposing an API to the external world so that the external world can consume those Pega APIs. So Pega is acting as an integration layer here. Now here there are three videos is what I'm planned. So one is to explain you guys about service package and connect rest, because they go hand in hand. Without one of service package or without connect service, you can't expose an API from Pega. And second thing, I'm going to show you how Pega is exposing a GET service, and I'm going to show you how Pega is exposing a POST service. So this is what my plan. So today what I'm going to explain you is the part 3.1, wherein we are going to connect a REST service and Pega is going to be a consumer over here, and we are going to connect a GET API. So without doing any further delay, let's get into it. Alright guys, so finally it's some practical time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a connect REST rule, and I'll show you how the wizard can create a connect REST rule. So to do that, first I'll start from the simple and then we'll go to the complex. So when I say simple, the GET applications are always simple because it's easy. It doesn't have a request body. All you need to do is pass the parameter, and then everything would be part of the response. So I'm going to do the same thing just so that you can slowly understand thing. And then I'm gonna create a REST connector for a post application or post create, and I will show you how you're gonna form a request body. So let's start. So now let me take this example. Okay, now this example is this URL is directly saying that it's going to get the detail of employee ID 1, but the actual URL is over here. So basically the actual URI is over here. All we need to do is we'll quickly form the URL. So I'm gonna paste it here just for the time being, and then employee ID, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to do ID like that. So always you start building your URI like this, not like this. Okay, this is just an example of how you're gonna consume or how Pega going to send the URL when you pass the value of in the parameter ID, but always take this as an URL which you will get it from the Swagger or something, or you can construct also. Okay, now now if I go to Pega, now where exactly you gonna build this REST API? So what we are going to learn is how Pega can consume this external API, right? Now to do that, what you can do is you can go to this configure, and then you can go to integration, okay, and then connector, and then here you can see this create a REST integration, right? Now we are doing REST, so that's why we are going to choose this create REST integration. Now if you see, there are 4 tabs, right? 1 2 3 4, right? Now first tab is what is the system detail. Now for this, what is my system is kind of an employee, right? So just name that. See, there is no right and wrong. It's just like as long as you guys understood and as long as you have a meaningful name is okay. Now what is the endpoint URL? Now the endpoint URL which I have constructed is this one, right? Now here you remember we need to give ID, right? If because I copied from there, that's why the ID didn't come, so I'm going to replace with ID. The moment you can see there is nothing, right? The moment I click on outside, Pega would automatically read this URL and give me multiple options. So if you see here, Pega is giving me what is my resource path. So you remember I told when you got something like this is called your resource path parameter. Now when you got something like this, like here you have got ABC, like anything after query question mark is your query string. Now if I have got anything in my question mark, you will find those parameters over here automatically as query string parameter. But because I do not have anything in my after question mark, and I have just got ID as part of my URI, that's why it got to know by this by this curly braces that it's gonna be a parameter. Now it also gives me other option to make me parameterize, but here I don't need to, right? For example, v1, Pega is asking me, do you want to make this as a parameter? No, I don't want to. All I need to do is make ID as a parameter. That's why I've chosen this one, right? Now here you have got couple of options. Now you can add so query string parameter, don't manually add it because you do not have, means you should not add it because that will fail the URI. Now header, if your API takes the header, then you can add it, but in this current example I do not have a header, that's why I can't add it. Now authentication, I would explain this authentication after I finish. So basically authentication is the base. Let's say if I have a basic authentication wherein if I need to consume this API, I need to use user ID password. But if you would have seen my last session, we do not need user ID and password, right? When I use this one, I do not have anything in my authentication. Even there is no authentication required because obviously I have picked up a sample one. But I'm like in real time, authentication is definitely going to be there. So what I'm going to do is after I finish creating everything, I'm going to explain you, right? Now I'll click on next, right? Now here, so the second is what is my resource? My resource is get employee, isn't it? I'm retrieving the employee ID or get employee ID, I would say, right? Now here you got 4 option or 5 option: get, post, put, delete, and patch. So patch is another option which I haven't explained because not you wouldn't see that in many times. Probably I'll at the end of the session I'll try to just explain, but don't worry about it. It's not so important at the moment considering what we are going to consume about API. Now here one thing you need to notice is, let's say you forgot to add this header or something over here and you click on next. Here also you can do override. You can click on override, you can add your query string or you can add your header, whatever. So it's automatically going to add that header. Now I don't have a header, so what I'll do is I'll move forward. Now when I move forward, in the next, this is called data model. Now what is data model? We all understand, right? Data model is nothing but how you construct your data or how you define your data, right? Now for this API, if you see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass 1 and I'm going to get this entire structure, right? So that means technically in Pega, if I see status is going to be a single field, data is going to be a page where I have got this ID and all this, and message is going to be successfully recorded, created, right? So this is called data model for API. Now similar data model we need to create. So you don't need to create manually. So there are 2 ways. One is, what I can do is I can do add a REST response. So by doing that, because I've got this URL wherein I told ID as a parameter, so Pega is asking me what parameter value you want to pass. Let's say I pass 1, and if I click on run, right, it will go directly hit the backend and give me all the response that you see in the postman. Now once I get the response, right, all I need to do is I need to just submit. So what Pega will do is automatically capture this entire data model. So so automatically it will create for you. You do not need to do anything. That's the best part, okay? And it saves a lot of time, to be honest. Now let's say if sometime your API is down, right? I mean you do not have a response from the API. So during that time, what you need to do is you need to copy this entire structure, save into a file, Now here in add a file, right? Here you can choose a file wherein all you need to do is copy this JSON structure and paste it in that file. So if the API is up and running, you can use this get a REST response. If the API is not up and running, you can use add a file, right? Now next step, if I go the final step, which is my review. So this is very important, the final step, what it tells. So when you connect or when Pega tries to consume an API, so there are two layers Pega focuses a lot. One is an integration layer, another one is data layer. Now as you guys know, every class that I create, right? So for example, PEGAhut, PEGAhut here. So I've got an integration layer, I've got a data layer, I've got a work layer. Now like I explained in my past videos, but I'll just quickly recap that integration layer is the layer where we do integrate to external parties, external system, then Pega, right? And data layer is the layer where it helps us to hold the data so that we can use that in the work class, right, to process or to complete a work. So these are the definition of individual layer. Now here also you get two layers. One is integration layer, another one is data layer. Now here one thing you see these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this in my organization at the moment. You can choose to keep it in PEGAhut. So all you need to do is do a edit. Like for example here, instead of XYZ, at the moment currently if you see this integration layer, parent class is XYZ-int. So that means it's gonna come and sit here. If you don't want, if you want into under PEGAhut, what you can do is you can search for PEGAhut here. Okay, it's okay. So PEGAhut and then -int. So you can choose PEGAhut int automatically. So this employee, whatever you are seeing integration class, is actually a class which Pega going to create to store your all the required rules, right? Connect rules, database, all the rules, right? I mean integration layer, it will be connect rule or your request data transform. In data layer also similarly, Pega will try to create one data type, means a class with all the required data which you would have gotten as a response in the JSON, right? Now here what I need to do is, let me put that in back to organization layer, okay, because I just wanted to keep it in the organization so I can reuse it across the organization. Now here I've got employee, here I've got int employee. Now here the connector name, this is the REST connector, is get employee, right? Now going back to data layer, here I've got get employee ID, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep them consistent. So I don't want to change that, I'll keep them consistent. The moment you copy and paste it over here, if you see the parent class is XYZ-data because it's in the data layer, right? Now here the moment I copy the name, automatically my class name also changes. Now here the database name, it's up to you. See how you got get employee ID at character name. You can leave the get employee ID as a database name. I would recommend to leave make this connector name and database name same, so it will be easy for when you search the rule and all. Now here if you remember, if you realize, so what all parameter Pega going to create over here, clearly visible. It will create a database, it will create a data class wherein it will place all the data model that we would have added as a file or consumed as a response. It will also create a connector rule, connect REST rule. It will create an int class wherein it will place all the required detail in the int class, right? Now here another thing which you need to focus is which rule set version that you are going to put that in. Now it's a golden rule. All your integration class should go to all your integration layer should go to your int one. So if I click existing, right, now if I got PEGAhut, I'll have a PEGAhut int because it's integration layer. It's a golden rule that we should take them to int version. Now for data layer, what I should do is I should directly go existing and then PEGAhut and 112, right, whatever my latest version. Now one point you need to note over here is you do not need to, so it depends on your rule or the class setup or the Ruleset version setup on where you need to use. So some people use an existing Ruleset version, some people create it every time they create this connect REST rule or they run this wizard, they are trying to place all the rules into a same Ruleset version. So if you are a junior or a senior developer in your team, then what you can do is you can talk to your lead and get that sorted out, which rule set version that you want to place this connector. First thing first, right? Now once you finalize that, make sure that rule set version exists, and once you come here, you can choose that necessary rule set version. And remember, even your lead forgot to tell, but make sure your int there has to be part of your int. Your data layer should be part of your data, right? Now I hope this is clear. Now I'll submit. And another thing, let's say for example, because I'm directly going and adding this, right? But maybe while you guys are working, you guys are going to work on a branch, right? The moment you choose branch, you will not have a version. That's the only difference. I don't have a branch now. I'm directly setting into the version. But the moment you create a branch in your application, automatically the branch will come. You guys need to put all your development in the branch, right? So you choose branch here. So what will happen is it will get rid of this version. All you need to have a rule set, because only after merging only the necessary rule will go to the that particular rule set version, right? Now this is clear. There is another thing which I wanted to tell you guys. Like in 7.4, when I first used my REST integration, so this class or this length has a character limit of 25 character. So if it is more than 25 character, then there is always you would find a null pointer exception or something. So you don't create the necessary artifact. So make sure it is under 25 characters. I'm not sure about 8.6 version which I'm currently using. I haven't tried that. But while you're doing it, if there is a problem happening that you can't preview your record or you can't create, make sure you have this entire length under 25 characters. Okay. So that is something I want to tell. So I don't want to spend time on there. So let's go ahead and create. Now once I create, so what I'll do is it will generate a summary page like this. And then it will create everything, right? Now here one thing, let's say you created something wrongly, so don't be afraid. There is always way that you can do undo generation. If I do undo generation, automatically every rule will be deleted. You don't need to do anything about it. Let's say sometime what happened is, let's say I close this one, right? Now all the rule created, and then you realize I need to delete. I did something wrong, I need to delete. So what you can do is, obviously there is a way that you can go. So you go to configure, you go to integration, you go to tools, and there is something called wizard cleanup, right? You click on this wizard cleanup, you will have, so whatever you would have run the REST API, you will have, find the one which you have run, and then automatically open that wizard cleanup and wizard, and then do a undo generation. So don't worry, if you close also, it's not gone, it's still there in Pega. All you need to do, go to right place and do undo generation. If at all you have not done it right, or you wanted to regenerate it for some or other reason, right? I've done many times because I didn't do something right. I accidentally chosen the data layer in the int for the int rule. So yeah, for those kind of scenario, you can do undo generation. Okay. Now that's it. Now let's move. So now all the rules would have been created. Now if you see earlier, we had given the name as employee class, right? So if you see xyz-data-employee class has been created, and you see xyz-int-employee class is created. Now over here there are a lot of classes being created. It is the data model again. So which class you need to focus? So let's start from integration, so that I can quickly show, and then I can quickly show how you wanna test it now. Now the main class that you need to focus is employee ID. There will always be an API, right? You might have multiple classes, but always go for the first class you need to traverse is API class. Now here if I expand, so if you see there is a data model, okay? In the data model, if I open the property, you will say this request, right? They all are automatically created. Request and response underscore get. If it is post, it will be response underscore post. Right now, if I expand the request, I have an ID, and then I have some query get, right? Now in query get, I do not have anything because I don't have a query parameter. That's why I'll always have an ID. Now in the response get, if you remember, if I open it here, what do I have? I have a status, I have a data, right? Now I have data where I have got employee. So exactly the way I'm getting the data: ID, employee name, employee salary, employees, and profile image. exactly the way you are getting. You will have all the field over here, and then you got a status. Now if I go to move to the data layer, which is here, let me minimize the int layer. If I move to data layer, what you will have in the data model section, again what because see, in the data layer having id doesn't make sense, because data layer is all about response, right? Now id is part of the request, so data layer doesn't bother about your request, it all bother about the response model that you get. Now if I expand property, you will have status and all the data that you have got over here. And then if I open the data pages, I told every time you run a connect rest, you will it will create a database which is d underscore get employee id, and you'll have a data so in remember one thing, in data layer you'll have the response data transform, okay? In int layer you'll have the request data transform. So if I expand this, I'll have this request data transform. Now I'll show you how it works and how it connects each other. So now first step, what you need to do is you need to open this database. Now database, so by using this database, Pega does all the magic, right? So here it's like a normal other database, nothing rocket science over here, only the data source. So far in my all database series, I've shown you guys to connect to activity, data transform, right? But this is the source where it will connect to rest. So that's why the source is connector, and then a type is rest. And then if you see, you got three sections, okay? One is your connect rule, another one is your request data transform, and third one is your response data transform. Now what first thing I need to do is I'll just quickly test and show you guys how this data transform works, okay? Then I'll go to individual rule and explain you what it does. So what to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first run over here, okay? And not to mention, I need to turn on the tracer just so that I can show you guys how does it work. And then I'll probably give one here, okay? And for the timing, I'll just choose first all instances and I'll run. Now if I run, then obviously without any data, without any doubt, I'm gonna get the status as success. And in the data, what I'm going to get, I'm gonna get all the employee details like 61 3208081. So whatever you see by using the postman, whatever you have got, you're going to get the exact one. Now let's try to analyze how does it work, okay? Now if I go to tracer, where is my tracer? It's over here. So I'll pause it for a while, okay? So first thing, okay, I'll come over here, I'll explain you here, and then I'll show you on the tracer. So when you call the database, so this database, because like I told, ID we made is parameterized, so automatically when you go to parameter tab, you'll have an ID over here, because ID is a parameter. If I got more than one parameter, you will have all the list of parameter over here. Now if I go over here, now what it does, once it receives, right, it will first go to the request data transform. Now in the request data transform, it will pass that ID. So if you see, if I click on the parameter tab, it will pass current parameter page. Now if I cancel and just open, first it will execute this request data transform, because it will try to form a request for that connect rest to execute. Now in the request data transform, if you see, it is in the int layer. Why? Because all my requests is part of my int layer, right? Now if I just expand close this data layer and expand this int layer just for your reference, so what I have got request.id. Now what I do is I pass this param.id and it set that param.id to request.id, and it forms the request object for the connect rest to call. Now once it forms the request id, now my request.id has got a id parameter, right? Now I'll close it, and now what will happen is, now it goes to connect rest tool. Now connect rest tool, when it opens, a connect rest tool will look like this. I will explain all the property in a while, but just try to understand. In the connect rest tool, what we are doing is, this param name is nothing but the external id, okay, which comes from this resource file. This is the URL which we have given, right? Now here what happened is, until this it is a URL, and then this id is nothing but this one. So if I've got more than one parameter, you will find one parameter at the bottom, right? Now so this id is nothing but the id which the external party or external API expect. Now this id value, where we have stored in Pega, we have stored in request.id. That's why automatically it mapped from request.id. So Pega does everything for you. All you need to do is properly understand and form the request properly. That's all you need to do. So it maps the request.id, right? Now if I go to method, right? If I go to method, now what is this method? It is get method. So I'll just minimize all the other method because Pega would not create anything. If you remember, there were 5 tabs, right? When we in the second tab pane, there are 5 tab: get, post, put, patch, delete. Because we have chosen get, so what Pega will do, because get doesn't have a request body, so you can't find anything over here. Pega will have a response which is dot response get, which is nothing but this dot response get. So this dot response get is map to key. So basically it's see map to JSON and map to key, right? What it does is whatever response we get from the external party, which is this one, Pega would automatically, that response will be mapped to response.get. That means now Pega has a Pega in the response.get. Pega will hold all the details or all the response, and then once Pega has got the response, that's where my connector rule executed. Now connector rule all good. Now it will go to data transform, where this response.get, right? Again, now which class of response.get Pega will hold? If I open this connector is belong to again int class. So that means what will happen is this response underscore get, right, will hold all the response objects. So in the int class property, you will have all the object. It hasn't come to data class yet, right? And you cannot use this int property directly from the work class until you source that to a data class. So that's the reason why Pega has a response data transform. If I open the response data transform, now what Pega has written over here is update page primary. Now who is the primary for me? Who is calling this data transform? The d underscore get employee ID is calling this data transform, right? That's why when I say update this data transform, that means all the data from data source dot response dot underscore get will be set to primary, that is d underscore get employee ID. Now this d underscore get employee ID belongs to data xyz data hyphen employee, right? Now this d and if I expand, the d underscore get employee ID belongs to xyz hyphen data hyphen employee, where I have got the similar structure whatever I have got under response dot get. So automatically what we do is what Pega does is automatically that data source dot response dot get will be mapped to automatically the d underscore get employee ID, and that's how Pega will hold all the response in the database. And that's the reason why you could able to see all the response for this D page. This is the response, right? All the response in the D page. So that's how Pega transform the request and get the response. Now here if you see, this data source is a page, right? I mean, if you see, if I do go page and class, this data source will belong to the int class, because when the connect rest executed, automatically my response data is being stored over here as part of my data source page, which is the OTB page Pega defined. And then from data source dot response get, it assigned back to the D page, so that you can use that D page across your work object, so to process your request. Now I hope this is pretty clear on how connector work. So what I mean on a very high level, again if I recap, because this is very important, that's why I'm recapping again. So first, the request data transform will be executed, and Pega will store all the request data, or Pega will set all the request into the int layer. Now the connect rest will get executed, where int layer class will assign to the external API property, and then once we get the response, which will be part of my response underscore get property belongs to int class, then response data transform will help me to copy that int class data to my data class, so that I can use in my work layer. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in the tracer. Now whether it works exactly the way I told or not. So what you need to do is, so first I'll go to tracer. So if you could see here, now get employee, okay, so here is my request, right? Now first, if you see this is in the 525 row number, just so that you would understand. Now here first set dot request ID. So Pega created a runtime page data runtime page where it set the request ID. So it basically forms the entire object, so that it will pass to the API. Now here it created a runtime page. After it finished, then if you see PX call connector happens, right? Now PX call connector, if you see here, rule, I mean this is the OTP Pega rule. Now which connector we are calling? See, EJB skipped, HTTP skipped, everything skipped. Connect rest is what became true, and that's why Pega tried to call this rule hyphen connect hyphen rest hyphen invoke. So as you could see over here, Pega tried to call. Now once that Pega finishes, so if you see activity begin and then activity end. So okay, can you see that? Now here one thing I wanted to show you on how the request and response structure is been going. So now what I'll do is I'll just rule hyphen connect hyphen rest, right? And I'll just search for rule hyphen connect hyphen rest. So basically this rule connect hyphen rest, what you can do is during runtime, if there are any error, you can look for, if people are using 7.4, then there is always you can search for connect hyphen rest. Automatically you'll find everything. But if it is like beyond 7.4, then you can search for rule hyphen connect hyphen rest. Now here rule hyphen connect hyphen rest actually ends over here, isn't it? Now here if I just go and click on this Java step, right? Okay, no, not over here exactly. So yeah, if you see here, this is where it connects the it invokes the REST connector. Now if I click on this Java step, right, and click on over here, you will see this ID is going as 1, and also you would also find if I once it finishes everything, so there is this data object, right? When rule this data, I mean not data object, sorry, my bad, user page, right, which Pega holds dynamically. If you click on that user page will have all the request and response. So here it will show request, I'm passing ID, and response, I'm getting this detail. Now for example, if there are some error happens and you want to try what error you are getting from the external system, then this is where you come and click on here, you will have all the request and response. Now once that request and response finish, now you could see this employee ID get response get is been executed, so that it can the data source which was defined in the response data source, response data transform, is this data source which it was talking. So it basically gonna copy from this data source to primary. Now here primary, if you see the step page is d underscore employee ID. So now after finishing everything, if I click on over here, my d underscore get employee ID will have all the value that I actually passed. I have got message, I have got status, I have got data, everything I'll have. And then eventually what will happen is I can use that in my database, in my process. Now I'll also show you that how you can use it, but I hope this is clear for you guys, right? Now what I'll do is I'll take a couple of more minutes to explain you a couple of additional points which you might come across about the request data transform and response data transform. I don't need to explain you, right? And method get and all this thing, I don't need to explain you, but you definitely need to understand about a little bit about connect rest rule. Now connect rest rule, if you see here, as part of this example, I'm going to explain whatever is necessary. There are a lot of things which I don't want to make you guys bored. You can learn as and when things comes, but whatever is necessary, what you are going to take care is what I'm going to explain, just to keep this video short and sweet, not to make it lengthy. Okay, now here first thing is your resource path. Now this resource path here, if you see, I have hard coded here, right? I mean, I haven't hard coded, basically I've given that, and Pega has put the resource path, which is working fine. But think about this scenario, right, where this is my let's say dev machine. I need to deploy it to my UAT or higher environment until production. Now my products, like how I have got multiple environment, my API also will have multiple environment. So every environment there this host name will change, right? Rest everything will be same, but host name will change. Now if you hard coded over here, and if you lock in and then push it to production, obviously in production you can't unlock and do it, and it's not the right way to do it also. So what there is a way called resource setting, which I'm gonna explain in another video. I'll create another video just to explain on how the resource setting this is kind of a pattern which Pega provides, wherein what you can do is you can use the DSS. People who do not know, DSS is called dynamic system setting. If I just search for you and show you, it's dynamic system setting. So if I record system admin dynamic system setting, basically this is kind of a configuration, right? Now here I can create a new one and I can easily change. It's a data instance, so it doesn't belong to a rule instance, so I can easily change in production. So generally what we do is we keep this URL over here or a data table. It depends on the design that your project has. So we keep that URL so that it will be easy for us to change in production. And then here we reference by we put that everything in a database which will be loaded in node level, and then over here we gonna reference the dpage over here so that the URL will be there. That is first thing. So after you create the wizard, make sure don't hardcode this URL. Make sure you talk to your lead or understand your existing pattern on how other URLs has been configured, and go ahead and configure that. And make sure it is not hard coded. It's gonna be nightmare when you go to production and you realize it's hard coded, right? Second thing, I've already told you how the request been mapped. They all are parameter. If I have a request, right? So it will be if I go to method, let's say mostly when I'll have a request, I'll have a request on the post. Mostly all the request and header, everything will be mapped here. Because my get doesn't have a request, that's why it's got a parameter. That's why it is mapped over here. Now here I'm going to explain a moment for authentication profile. So basically, like I told, authentication profile is nothing but a basic auth, or there's a lot of there are a lot of where your API provider would be giving. I will explain you a basic auth. Now for example, for basic auth you need to use authentication profile. So basic auth means what? User ID and password. Now to use that user ID and password, what you need to do is first you need to understand what is the user ID and password that your external party has, right? Let's say, like for example, if this API we are consuming this API, we can't define the user ID password, right? As a consumer, we can't define. The provider has to define. So you need to get those user ID and password from your API team. Then what you need to do is you need to go record and then security, and then there is something called authentication profile, right? Here, authentication profile. You go here. Let's say I'm gonna just create a quick authentication profile. Now if I create a quick authentication profile, what this asks, okay, there are a lot of basic, like I was just talking about this basic OAuth and all. So let's consider basic, where I'll say let's say employee or I would say get employee AP authentication profile, and I'll just give the same thing over here. Now okay, 1 second. Yeah, now if I do create and open, what it will ask me, a username and password. Let's say my username is I'm putting pure, and I'll update my password to rules, right? Now if I update my password to rules, and let's say what you need to do over here, this authentication profile is a data instance, right? Now for dev, you put the username and password for dev. Now let's say when you take this as part of the product file to higher environment, what you can do is you can change the username and password for test, whichever environment. Let's say if you go to production, just update this authentication username and password in the production for whatever provider will give you for their production API, right? So update them so that you don't need to create again and again. Now if I just go ahead and save it here, now my authentication profile has been created. All I need to do is just search for that one and use that authentication profile. So that's how you're gonna use that authentication profile if it is part of your basic auth, and that's how you're gonna take this. This is a data instance, remember, so you can take that as part of product file, and then eventually you can update in the production system. Now second thing, these are all SSL configurations. So on a very high level, like because I haven't explained, and SSL is a big topic to be explained, to be honest. So basically, let's say if your provider would expect some certificate to be passed, then you can use the Keystore of our Pega. So if I search for Keystore, then you can find this Keystore. You can create a new Keystore and pass that as part of the trust store, so that you can pass the certificate, and then you can use this trust store Keystore, but that is purely SSL 99% of the time you don't need to, because generally the handshaking in the enterprise world, the handshaking would already been done for system to system. So by default it should work as is, you don't need to. But in case in the exception scenario where you need to pass a certificate, then you can use the Trustore or Keystore depending on which certificate you are passing. Now another important thing is the response timeout. So as you could see here, we have got 30,000 milliseconds. That means basically what will happen when I am trying to call this API, right? So this API took 774 milliseconds, which is pretty fast, right? Then 30,000. But there are instances where this API can take more than that time. So as I told you guys, API is a restless API, right? So every API will have a default timer for 60 seconds. Okay, the REST API has a default timer of 60 seconds. So basically, what when I say default timer is from starting to end transaction. So API will take your request from that point to go to DB, wait for DB to respond, and then respond you back. So there are some heavy APIs which may take more than that, and depending on the configuration, you need to understand what is your default timeout your provider has configured. If your provider has configured 60, I would recommend to change it to 65 seconds. If your provider has configured to 30, I can recommend you to go for 31 seconds. I tell you why you need to have more timeout setting than your provider, because let's say in scenario where you call the REST API, let's say your provider has got 60 seconds, but your timeout has got 30 seconds. You call that API, the API will do the job and wait for the backend, and by that time, let's say API took 45 seconds. By the time API gets the response, you would Pega automatically timeout, because you have configured 30 seconds is the maximum timeout. So that way what will happen, you will actually lose a chance of capturing what happened. Then eventually what will happen, you would consider that as an error. But in practical world, it is actually a success, because the API has got you the response. It's just you are not there to capture the response. So make sure always this timeout has to be more than what your provider provide, so that you can capture all the response. Even if an error response, you can capture. Now this entire error handling flow is the OOTP error handling flow. So if there is a error happen while processing or while capturing, then you have this OOTP property which said, and Pega provides a connection problem flow. So if I go to connection problem here, and if I click on this flow, Pega provides this flow where you can do retry, and you can also customize this flow and keep it in your Ruleset version, and you do changes. It all depends on how you're doing the retry mechanism, or whether you need to do retry or not, or you are showing as error on the screen. So depending on the nature of your requirement or design, you need to use this error handling area. Now this processing option is basically going to differentiate between synchronous and asynchronous. So if you say immediate execution is gonna get you the response straight away. If you're going for queuing, it will not be, the response won't be available. Pega will queue it and try to get the response. But again, most of the REST API will always be immediate response, because REST APIs are synchronous always. So we're gonna use the default setting. That's pretty much what I wanted to explain you guys about it. And for method, obviously whatever method you use, every method will have a request. In the request you will have a header and a body, and then you will have a response, wherein you will have generally response header. Most of the API will not have response header, unlike there are some special API, but generally response header will not be there. So what will happen, response will always have a body where you will get the response, and then eventually you're gonna proceed. So that's everything about the connect REST rule. Now the second part of the video is that I want to take a small use case, and where I will show you how you guys gonna integrate this API and fetch the detail. See, it's simple, right? It's just a database where you're going to integrate, but still I wanted to show that so that you'd understand. So now let's consider that you based on the ID you are getting from the API, employee name, employee salary, age, and email, right? Now let's say just a simple use case. What we will do is we'll take a input as employee ID. Based on that, we'll show the employee name from the API. although API has got all the details, but we would show only employee name on the section. So to do that, what I have done is I have already a class or case which is called dummy, and in the dummy I have got a section, okay, and which is called collect info. So if I just quickly show you in the, how the dummy case looks like. So dummy case has got a collect info and a review info. This is just simple section. So here what I am going to do is, in collect info I have put a placeholder called employee ID. This is where I am going to get the employee ID from the user. User will feed in the employee ID, and I'm going to show you the employee name. Now to do that, what I need to do is, so when I'm going to show the employee name, basically I wanted to also keep that as part of my PY work page. So to do that, the first step which I'm going to do is, I'm going to there are two ways. Either you create a simple property, or you can just use the use a page and can store and can refer to all the property. So what I'm going to do is, I will try to I'll just create a simple property here. So here what I'm going to do is, first I will create a property which is right click, create, and where is this? This is in data model and a property. So this property, I'll say employee name, okay, just a single property, okay, because I just need to store a single property, and I'll leave as text, okay. Now here in the collect info, what I'm going to do is, I'm gonna get the text capture, text input as put here, and what I'm going to do is replace to employee name, and I'll make it a read only presentation. I'll make it a read only always, and I'll submit, okay. Now this is submitted. Now here so what my requirement is, the moment I click on press 1 or 2 or something, it's gonna go and fetch the details from the API. Here in the action and event, here I'll say on change, and in the event I'm going to do a refresh harness, refresh section. Here I'm gonna call a data transform called fetch employee detail, okay, fetch employee details. Now here I'm going to open that fetch employee detail, and I'll just create and open, okay. So before I forget, generally I always forget, so I'll do save here, and then I'll go back to the section. I'll do a submit, and I'll do a save here. Now here what my first step would be, to save the employee ID to a param dot employee ID, okay. And then my second step would be, here dot employee name, it should come from the database. Now what is my database here? My database is d underscore get employee ID, right? If I open, I'll take this database d underscore employee ID. I'll first try to put it here, and this database takes a parameter which is called ID, right here, ID, correct? Now if I come here, I'm gonna put ID colon. Here what ID I should pass? Param.employee ID, whatever the user will input, provide in the input, right? I would also go and define in the page and class for the same database. See, like I told, all the source is connect REST, but when you are going to use that in your process, it is just a simple database, right? That's nothing rocket science. So here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put object type as employee. Now here I'm going to put like this, and then dot employee ID dot, where my data will be in the data, under data, and here I will get employee name, right? As you already know this work, this data model, so I'm not going to explain. So now I'm basically I'm calling this database, which internally go and get the details from the API and gonna store in my PY workspace, right? Now I'll do a checkout, I'll do save, and now will do a quick run, wherein I'll turn on the tracer and show you. So I'll do a save and run first. I hope I have saved everything. Now here employee ID and employee name is there. Now what I'll do is, I'll turn on the tracer, I'll quickly play this one, and here I'll give, let's say 1. Now if I give 1, then am I getting my, yes, see, employee tiger nixon came, and now if I see employee 1 has got the tiger nixon. I'll also show you guys on the clipboard just to make sure on the tracer, just to make sure that this connect rest has been called. So if you could see here, the moment fetch employee, right? Fetch employee data. The moment I call the fetch employee data, data transform begin, as you could see here. Now database load begin, where this d underscore employee id, we are passing id equal to 1, and this d underscore employee, it started calling the connector, px call connector, and eventually it will do request data transform, whatever I have shown you, it will do everything. It will get me all the response. So technically, by the time I will have the response in the after response get, so if you see, it will get all the response that we have set it for from the API. Now see, it depends on, you might have requirement where you need to show everything, or you might have requirement where you need to show just one, right? Based on that, you need to define your data model in the py workspace, and based on that you need to show and hide. And sometimes it so happen that you're gonna call the API and you're just gonna show on the section wherein you don't need to store any of the data as part of the py workspace. Then you can just refer this database in the section, and eventually gonna show to the user. So it's all depending on what kind of requirement you have got. Based on that, your data model has to be designed in such a way that it will cater your requirement. So I hope this is clear, wherein I mean, so far what all we have understood, we have understood how to create a connect rest rule by using the wizard, and this is a get call. And now we have also understood on how to call an API and get the detail and show on the section, right? That's it for today, and hope you understood clearly. Please hit the like button if you learned something or you like the way I have explained, and leave me a comment if you have any queries or feedback for me. It will help me to improve and also motivate me to post more concepts and videos. As I always tell, sharing is caring, so do share with others so people who do not know about my channel will be benefited. Stay tuned for my next video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe and click on the bell notification for my new video updates. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.